Mr. Joyce,
Thank you, Chairman Quigley. I appreciate the opportunity.
is this number 3 for the day?
2 at the moment,
2,
thank
all
you.
right.
Secretary Mnuchin, thank you for being here today. And I understand that my colleague, Mr. Chris, may have gone down some of this road with you before on cannabis banking, but it was... Well, you know, last year I started that discussion, and I would like to continue it if we could. I know the Safe Banking Act, which was something I supported, was, I thought, a step in the right direction when it comes to eliminating the inefficiencies I see between the state, for the Treasury and state legal cannabis businesses alike. However, in my opinion, there's so much work that still needs to be done. Can we count on a member of your staff of keeping the committee apprised of the challenges Treasury and IRS face in this area? Because I think it's important Congress continue to iron out these problems as they are an issue of public safety, transparency, and accountability.
Well, I'll repeat my comments only because I do think this is an important issue. First, as I said earlier, I'm not making a policy view on this because that's not in my lane as to the conflict between state law and federal law. Right. What I would say is in my lane, and again, I'll repeat this because I think it's important, this creates significant problems for the IRS. We have to build cash rooms where we have to take in cash because many of these entities are not banked. That creates significant risk in the communities for collecting this amount of cash and is problematic. And I would also say from the standpoint of the bank regulators, although we issue certain guidance in FinCEN, there is this conflict between state and federal law creates significant issues for financial institutions. So I would encourage Congress to deal with this one way or another without me making a comment. This is now an industry that is growing, that has a lot of cash, and as one of your colleagues made the comment, if this were somewhere else in the world with all this cash, we'd have a very different view of it.
You're not getting off that easy, sir. No, obviously there's a lot of conflicts that are presented here, and something that, you know, I got up and put in an amendment in a full committee hearing one time, and things didn't go so well for me. And the next day I heard you on TV explaining all the problems that you're having there with this issue. And boy, I wish I could have had you on TV during this hearing when I had my hat handed to me. But, you know, it is something that needs to be rectified. And I understand that the safe cash rooms and things like that. I mean, there's a old bank robber from Cleveland named Willie Sutton, and after he got caught for the 9th time, they asked him, you know, why he continued to rob banks. He said, because that was where the money is. And when you create this situation, I'm surprised that, you know, there isn't more danger, unfortunately, to the public in having these large amounts of cash being kept. It should be in the institutions that small banks, community banks, state-run banks, so they can do what they do best, is let this burn into the community and finance other small businesses and other things. But there has to be, I realize it's our problem, and I realize it's something we need to address. But in the meantime, some help from the Treasury as to why it's important to get these things taken care of sooner rather than later, because these are legitimate going concerns that under the, you know, enacted by a state in which the state, whether we like it or not, has made it legal in some way, shape, or form, be it full legal, medical, or CBD. I'm still not sure what the hell that is, but there seems to be CBD everywhere as well. You know, we really need to have this addressed, and so we were looking for some guidance from your working with your department to try to come to some understanding, because one of the things you hear get thrown around are, oh, it's just going to allow cartels to launder their money. Now, wouldn't you agree that if, in fact, we had, as my distinguished colleague, Mr. Amity, has brought up what they have in Nevada, where it's all hands are up, you treat it like casinos, all the revenue, since they do it now monitored from seed to sale, in most states, they dictate how much you can sell it for, that all the pricing would be in there. You'd know what the profits are, and if we had an all-of-above approach, it'd be easier to collect the taxes on it, and it would be easier to show everybody just, you know, how the regulation actually works, and it wouldn't allow for allegedly cartels to launder their money. Wouldn't that make sense to you?
Again, I'm acknowledging that this creates problems for us and should be addressed. Without legislation, we have limitations in what we can do on this issue. There is a conflict between federal and state law. And we don't have the ability at Treasury to fix that conflict. So as long as that conflict exists, this is a business that generates lots of cash, and obviously that creates concerns for us, both in our standpoint of money laundering and our standpoint of just the IRS and collecting it.
One last one, if I could. Would the issue, since it's all cash business now, right? The financing of the companies have to be business. There needs to be some common sense brought to those tier 2 and tier 3 people, the people who like built a building that they're going to harvest or grow the cannabis in and those type of things, and having their finances questioned because they happen to receive payment for a transaction that has nothing to do with the growing of cannabis other than building the facility or something else. I mean, we need to have some sense brought to that so people's lines of credit in legitimate businesses such as, say, Scott's Fertilizer in Ohio, which doesn't grow a thing but manages to sell into the industry, somehow has an issue with their lines of credit when they're not doing anything wrong. And that's where we need some help and some guidance as well, sir. I thank you. I yield back.